Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wise Up Show this Sunday, January 29th, 2023, and I'm your host, Ralph Mucci. This is it. This is the end of January, the end of the month. This went by so fast. 2 more days, and it's February. And so far this month, we've been lucky. I mean, we only had snow, if you want to really call it snow, once. But we're not out of the woods yet because we still got the whole month of February here in northern New Jersey. And anything can happen in the month of February. That's for sure, especially here in northern New Jersey. But I want to say hello to everybody in the chat right now. See who's here. We got, let's see. Oh, right on top there, Tommy Stiggs, Claudio. Hello. Tommy, hello. Arms distance. We got Gerard. And Gina. And Teresa. And that's it for now. Maybe we'll get more later on. But, so I'm going to talk about the good old days. The good old days. Now, the good old days doesn't just mean my good old days. It means your good old days, too. It means the time period that you grew up, the time period that I grew up, and the time period that I grew up was different than yours. And some of you were born, whatever your childhood memories are, the time you grew up to your teenage years, those are the good old days, because those are the days that we look back at that will never be the same. Nothing is ever the same. So if you think back to when you were growing up and what was going on to present day, it's not the same. But you always have the memories of the good old days. Now, I grew up in the 60s, so my growing up is totally different than a lot of yours. Some of you grew up in the late 70s, early 80s. Some of you may have grown up in the 80s and the 90s, so all those time periods are different. But when I grew up, life was very, very simple. Very, very simple. We didn't have any technology that we had today. You know, we didn't have computers. We didn't have cable TV. We had, on TV, we had in New York, we had channel 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13 was public television. So television was very simple. As kids, we played with things like yo-yos and tops and airplanes that we would put together for 10 cents and had a propeller on it and fly. I mean, life was very, very simple. It was even more simpler in my mother and father's time. They didn't even have TV. They used to hang in the living room listening to the radio. So the technology that we have today was something that was predicted at the World's Fair in 1965. And in 1965, looking into the future, into today, which was 40, 50 years into the future, you couldn't even imagine the things that they were showing at the World's Fair back then that have really happened today. So growing up in my time, your time is totally different. Going to school, for example. After we got out of school, we went home, we went out and played. Playing. Depending on what time of the year it was, if it was the nice weather, we used to play touch football on the street, or baseball on the street, or hang on the stoop and just talk until it was time to go home. When your mother and father told you to go home and be home for dinner, you were home. Then after you had dinner, you did your homework. And depending on what time of the year it was, you'd go out for a little while. And they always knew where you were. You're always over some friend's house. Or you're out riding your bike or whatever. But life was very simple. Summertime was great growing up in Newark when I grew up. In the summertime, kids bought comic books for 12 cents and read comic books for hours. And we would go out in the morning when we were on summer vacation, and we wouldn't hear from our parents all day until it was time to go home at 5 o'clock. We were out all day without any communication with our parents. There was no cell phones. Wherever the bikes were in front of somebody's house, that's where we were. Our parents would get a hold of us. We'll call our friend's house and talk to their mothers and tell Ralphie I want to come home. I want him to come home. Or is Ralphie there? That was a communication. We were out all day in the summertime by ourselves. We didn't have to worry about getting kidnapped. We didn't have to worry about getting shot. We didn't have to worry about getting stabbed. We didn't have to worry about, well, there was no malls back then. Malls didn't come into existence until the late 1969 and after that. That's when the malls came into existence. In Newark growing up, you had, everybody went to the local stores, the butcher shop, the barber shop, the corner grocery store. It was different back then. So life was very, very simple for us, to make money as a kid when your parents really didn't have money. I started work when I was 11 years old. My first job at 11, was it 11? No, I'm sorry, it was 12. It was 12. I used to stand outside the supermarket and wait for the ladies to come out with their shopping cart filled with bags and ask them, do you need any help? Can I help you to your car? And if they wanted help, I would take their cart from them, wheel it to the car, and put their groceries in the car, and they would give me 10 cents or a nickel. If I got a quarter, that was a lot of money. If I got $1, I was on top of the world. Because everything back then, candy bars were a nickel. There was penny candy, like Tootsie Rolls and bazookas for a penny. So for 10 cents, you could buy 10 Tootsie Rolls or 10 bazookas or 10 Tootsie Roll Pops, Or if I wasn't working and carrying groceries, I was shoveling snow when it snowed. Going from house to house, ringing their doorbell, asking them if they wanted their sidewalk shoveled. Making a couple dollars here, $3 there. That was a lot of money back then. Sometimes I made more money than my father did in the day. My father said, I'm going to go out and shovel. So anything that a kid could do back then to make money, you found a way to make money. Coca-Cola, you remember, used to come, Coca-Cola, it still does, came in glass bottles. It came in glass bottles that size, and then they also made a bigger size. The glass bottles were 2 cents when you brought them back to the supermarket, and the big bottle was a nickel. So we would walk around the neighborhood on garbage day and collect the soda bottles that people didn't want to be bothered bringing them back to the store. So I would walk back with, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 bottles, and make money that way. I went out Christmas caroling. I was a shoe shine boy. That didn't last too long because my father wasn't happy about that. But any way that you could make money back then in the day, you found, money was not handed to you by your parents. You had to work for it. It's not like today with these kids, they're spoiled. So it was a simple time growing up back then, things like robbing the poor box in church. Who would ever think about that back then? I went to Catholic school. Stealing money out of the poor box was something that was unheard of. Or stealing the chalice that the priest puts the wine in. Those things were just not imaginable. Nobody thought about those things. And if you got out of hand with somebody, you did something wrong, you got suckered in the mouth. You know what that means? Suckered in the mouth. That means you got hit right in the mouth. No questions asked. You got hit immediately. And I see many guys get hit. So there was no nonsense back then. There just wasn't. Hold on one second, because let me just see who's in the chat here. I want to say hello, everybody. Okay. I just got to go back real quick. The Wine Guild is here. Hello, Ann. How are you? Tammy C for Life. How are you, hon? Coltrane. Christopher Toro. The Albanian Syndicate. Hello to everybody. Hold on one second. Let me just see who else is here. Gianni, don't go anywhere. Do not go anywhere, Gianni, please. I got something for you. I just want to make sure I got everybody. Okay. Everybody's saying hello to everybody. Okay. I just want to make sure I got everybody. What was I saying? So life was very simple. Now, in your times, I mean, and then growing up in the 70s, it was the hippie era. I was coming out of the late 60s were, I just missed Woodstock. I just missed Woodstock by a couple of years. Not that I would have gone, I don't know if I would have gone, but then going into the 70s, was the hippie era. I had long hair. I wasn't a hippie, but I wasn't into peace, love, and all that stuff. But I had long hair. I had the aviator glasses became very popular. Jeans. If you had a hole in your jeans, you put a patch on it. Nobody walked around with ripped jeans. That was unheard of. You put a patch on it, whether it be a peace sign or whatever, and then, of course, then the disco era came about, and then that was a whole different era. That was it's like going from night and day. So some of you may remember the disco era, and some of you may not remember the disco era. So it all depends on your age and the time period that you grew up in. But that if you look back into your past, when you were a child growing up, things are not the same as they are today, right? You remember prices, right? Remember what you paid for things? Listen to this. I was able to buy 3 slices of pizza and a Coke for $1. 3 slices of pizza and a Coke for $1. Each slice of pizza back at that time, 1967, 66, 67, was 30 cents a slice. And the Coke was 10 cents. And that was a lot of money, $1 back then in 1966 is equivalent to $9.10 today. So $1 went a long way, especially if you were a kid. We did things like ice skating. We went ice skating on a Friday night. On a Saturday, there was an ice skating ring in our park in Newark that everybody used to go to. And on Sunday, everything was closed back then in the 60s and 70s. Sunday was a day of rest. There was nothing open. All the stores were closed. The only thing you were able to do was either go to the movies or go bowling. That was the 2 things that you could have done when you were a kid. Everything else was closed. And if the stores were open, they were only open till like 12 noon. You couldn't buy liquor. My father used to send me down to the local bar on the corner to get him a container of beer. The beer used to come in a cardboard container for 50 cents. And I was unable to get that until 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock? Yeah, I think it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So life was very simple. And, of course, Sunday dinner was a big ritual. Where I grew up in the North Ward, Forest Hill section of Newark, at that time, back in the 60s, excuse me, it was relatively 97% Italian. The other 3% was Irish, German, or Polish. And I'll never forget this, and I spoke about this once before. In the springtime, when the weather was nice, everybody on my street, my block, had their windows open on a Sunday. And as you walk down the street, it always seemed that everybody was frying their meatballs at the same time. So as you walked past their houses and the windows were open, you would get different aromas of the meatballs frying. And then like an hour later, you would walk down the block and you would smell the different aromas of the gravy or slash sauce of everybody cooking. Everybody seemed to do it at the same time. And everybody's door was open. All my neighbors' doors were open. And if you ever watched the comedian Sebastian Maniscalco, when he talks about, come on in, I got coffee, I got Sanka, I got a tin with a tin with Sanka and coffee cake, that really happened. That really happened. You could walk into anybody's house on my street. It wasn't really me, the kids, but our parents did. Come on in, come on in. Sit down, have some coffee, stay for a while, And the coffee would come out, the cake would come out. It was very it was very hospitable. Our neighbors were very hospitable, so they left their doors open. That's unheard of today. That's unheard of. Everybody had their door open. You could walk. Everybody on the block knew everybody. Everybody on the street knew who everybody was. So I walked into my neighbors' houses many times, like it was my own house. Come on in, Ralphie. Come on in. Sit down. Have something to eat. It was totally different time. Those times are gone. They're gone. Sunday dinner was a ritual. Everybody ate it either at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday. It was always macaroni. We had macaroni 3 times a week. Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. That was the ritual in my house and in many homes back then. Because times, people didn't make a lot of money, so macaroni was a very inexpensive dish to make. We didn't call it pasta, we called it macaroni. So we had it 3 times a week. And my mother would come up with these economical dishes that she would get from my grandmother, which some of them I still make today. And back then, when you were a Catholic, you weren't allowed to eat meat on any Friday, never mind just Lent. Now it's Lent, just Lent. They changed that rule. But back in the day, you weren't allowed to eat meat on any Friday. So we had dishes like English muffin pizzas, which I still make today, or bassa vazul, or frittata, potatoes, eggs, and onions. All economical dishes to feed a family of, how many was it? 6. And a lot of those dishes I still do today. As a matter of fact, I just did one, was it last month, with the fried bologna and the hot peppers and the scrambled eggs, So those things you carry over with you, and at that time, a pound of macaroni was 30 cents, and that would feed a whole family of 6, So, the Stupid Comedy Show, how are you, buddy? Some of these names kill me. And I just noticed, I just looked down and I saw him in the chat. But your time and my time was totally different. I remember back on the World's Fair, I had the book from 1965. They talked about talking to another person on the phone and actually seeing them. But it was totally different. It was a phone that you held the receiver and you looked into a screen, like a mini TV screen. That was their idea of the future of talking to somebody else on the other line on the phone, which of course came true today. So they weren't too far off, at the World's Fair. So a lot of the things that happened back then did come true. I have to look for something real quick because we have. Let me just find it real quick. Okay, Johnny, are you here? Johnny, you're here. Okay, Johnny, buddy, this is for you, Johnny. Okay, pay attention. This is for you, buddy. That's for you, buddy. Happy birthday. I know your birthday was yesterday. And Gianni he's always one of the first in my parlor. He's always there. He's a good guy. He's a good listener, and he's a really nice guy. Something that somebody just mentioned in the chat. I want to tell you a quick story. When I got out of high school, I went to film school for a very short period of time. And our instructor told us he wanted us to go out and he wanted us to film our neighborhood, our street, and all the stores. And at that time, of course, it was movie film. It wasn't the wind-up camera. It was Super 8, Super 8 silent. The camera ran by batteries. So he says, I want you to go out. He told the class, I want you to go out, and I want you to film your street, your house, your neighborhood, and all the neighborhood stores in your neighborhood. So as kids, we looked at one another like, what is he talking about, you know? So I went out, and I filmed my street, and I filmed all the stores on Bloomfield Avenue in Newark at that time. It was 1973, I think it was. And he said to us, and when you get, he says, take the film and get it developed. Now, at that time, either you brought the film to get developed at a camera shop or the drugstore. And the drugstore would send it out to Kodak, and it would take a week to get back because at that time, that's the way they did it. There was no 1 hour photos back then. So the film came back, we all went back to class. So the instructor said this, now I'm going to tell you why I made you do that. He says, because what you filmed on film and captured is a piece of history. He says, you have to preserve that film. And in 30, 40 years from now, he said, that everything that you filmed will probably either be changed or long gone. And you'll have a remembrance of the way you remembered it, you know, at your age. And here it is, 1973, and how many years was that? Over 50 years, I think, right? He was right. Nothing is the same in North Newark that I filmed back in 1973. The stores are all gone. My house has changed, the outside of it. They built another house next to my house. Nothing is the same. Everything has changed. But what do I have? I have a piece of history and a piece of a good memory of the way things were. He had the foresight to see, to tell us that. And I'm so happy that I have that. I'm so happy to this day that I have it. I still have it, and I preserved it because I've been in photography since I'm 11. So he was a very smart man. And like I said, things change. You know, neighborhoods change. Stores come and go. Buildings get knocked down. Nothing is the same. Nothing is the same. So Gianni, I hope you enjoyed that, buddy. That was a little tribute to you and your birthday. And if anybody else has a birthday, let me know. Let me know. I'll celebrate it with you. And all right, now I have to get serious. I have some bad news. I lost a childhood, well, I guess you could say friend, that I grew up with, and even into my adulthood. It's a very sad thing, and I need a moment of silence, okay? I need a moment of silence for my friend. Don't you know what my childhood friend is? It's Ronzoni Pastina. It's not a real person. It's a childhood friend. I grew up with Pastina. Pastina. I grew up with this. Even now I use it. They're not making it anymore. You see this box? This is the last box of pastina that I have. I had 3 boxes. I bought them for my grandkids. This is the last box, and I'm not opening it. This box is like gold right now. Pastina, you see it? It's real. It's real. Here, let me show you something. My God. Look at this. This is how much Walmart is selling it right now. 3 boxes for $54. Are you crazy? 3 boxes for $54. This box cost me $1.25. And they're selling 3 boxes for $54 at Walmart. Are they out of their minds? What is wrong with this world? Don't you know that other companies make pastina? Barillo makes pastina. But this is what everybody grew up with. You know, pastina with butter. Pastina with butter and Italian grated cheese, or pastina and butter and Italian grated cheese and some egg. You know, but every kid in Newark back in the day grew up with pastina. I even eat it today. That's sick. That's like $20 a box. You know, and you could get Barillo makes it. Other macaroni companies make it. You know, it is sad though. It's a childhood memory. It is. It's a friend. I mean, I grew up with that. You know, every household had pastina, especially when you were sick. You know, so I see people in the parlor wishing me condolences, but you didn't get it. You didn't pick up on that. You know, why would I be saying moment of silence and playing a pastina thing? You know, you guys are crazy. Or am I the one that's crazy? So, all right. Now I'm going to go into retro commercials. Just 2 retro commercials. Just 2 of them. 2 of them I got. Very interesting. We're going to go back into time. I think it's the late 70s. Wait, let me think now. I forgot. It was the late 70s and the 80s. And I want you to see. Some of you may remember this. Some of you may not. I do. Let me watch this commercial.
Finding a phone in a car isn't that unusual anymore, except when it leaves the car. The greener pastures, the high seas, or a leisurely lush. Radio Shack keeps you in constant communication with their affordable, transportable cellular telephone. Hello? Well, yes, he's right here. It's for you.
Yes, I heard about the merger. 500 shares.
The affordable, transportable cellular telephone, only at Radio Shack.
That was one of the first portable cell phones that you could take into your car with a battery pack that was huge, and that was the first one that Radio Shack had. And this one right here. This one is from I think it was the early 80s, if I'm not mistaken. This was the first portable cell phone.
World in your hand with Radio Shack's new portable cellular phone. A price and technology breakthrough. Only at Radio Shack, the technology store.
Radio Shack had everything back in the day. There's no more Radio Shacks around. I think they're on the internet. I'm not sure, but Radio Shack had everything. But those were the cell phones. Those were the cell phones back then. And then the portable ones for the house, you know, they were like this big, you know. And of course, you see how technology has advanced, you know, and what we're using today, you know. Everybody has a camera. Everybody has a camera on their phone. Everybody has a cell phone. Mostly everybody has a cell phone. Very few people have house phones. Some people still have house phones, but mostly everybody has a cell phone. And we've become so dependent on the cell phone. I think the last time I memorized a phone number, it had to be like in 1990. The cell phone is our lifeline now. How many times have you walked out of your house sometimes and forgot your cell phone, had to run back in the house, or drove away and then had to drive back home to get your cell phone because you're lost without it? It's your lifeline. It's your lifeline. It has its good points and its bad points like anything else, but today everybody's dependent on the cell phone, and it's not going to go anywhere. It's here to stay. It is here to stay. Yeah, you're right, Teresa. Not a lot of landlines today. Yeah, Radio Shack. Radio Shack had it all. I bought so many things from Radio Shack. So many electronics and parts, and I really miss that store. I remember going. It's funny because I was talking about back in the day, but I remember that, like, I didn't mention the 80s. The 80s, for some of you, I remember the big hairstyles. The girls wore their hair with teased and with hairspray. A lot of hair. They wore the leg warmers. They put the leg warmers over their jeans, and it was from their kneecap all the way down to their ankle. The leg warmers. Then you had the designer jeans. You had Jordache and Sassoon and Gloria Vanderbilt. Those were big. And for the guys, they had members only jackets. Those were big too. And the guys had mullets. And so the 80s was a good era too for music. So 80s was a good music. I don't remember too much about the 90s. I think it stops there. But the 80s was a lot of good music in the 80s too. A lot of good music. So yes, it was, Teresa. Rotary phones, yeah. Rotary phones. Back in the day, in my time, we only had one phone. And that was either in the kitchen or in the living room. And if you had two phones, you were wealthy. They had extension phones. One would be in the living room as an extension, and one was in the kitchen. And you could pick up the phone that was in the living room and listen to whoever was talking on the phone in the kitchen, And then you had to dial. It was rotary phones. And then the push-button phone came out. Then the Princess phone came out. Some of you might remember the Princess phone. And then it was push-button, which overtook the rotary phone. And I remember when Bell Telephone used to come to your house to service your phone. Yeah, that's unheard of today. Yeah, Gerard, the touch tone. And the cord. How about the cord? How long the cord was? You could walk into the next room with the cord. That's how long it was. And if you stretched it, it got longer because each time you stretched it, it would get longer and longer. You go into the next room with the phone. Oh, and if you called somebody up on the phone and the other person was on the phone that you were calling, you get a busy signal. It would go and then you'd know that person was on the phone, and you wouldn't be able to get through to them until they hung up the phone. There was no answering machine. The first answering machine came out by Phonomate in 1973, and it was like a reel-to-reel tape recorder. That's when that came out. So, I could tell you about many things and talk about the old days and so many things and how technology advanced. And I've seen a lot. Carol, the best was no phone. I went, oh my gosh. The curly cord, Gianni. Yeah, the curly cord. And, it would start out, the phone cord would be about that size, right? And then you would walk with it, and you would stretch it. And each time you walk with it and stretch it, it would get bigger and bigger and bigger until you were able to go into the next room. And if you didn't want anybody to hear your phone conversation, you'd go in a closet and close the door. There was nowhere to go with the phone. You could call the time. You could call information. Information was 411 on your phone. You can call the time, and they would tell you what the time was. Things are real. So those are a lot. Some of you, okay, so some of you do remember that. Some of you may remember payphones. Some of you may not. All right? We would be riding in the car, right? Mike, pull over. I got to make a phone call. You'd see a phone booth, right? You walk in, get out of the car, throw a dime in the phone booth, and make your phone call. Especially if it's for a girl. You know? There was phone booths all over the place. You know, today the kids don't know. There's no phone booths around at all. Well, there is one that I know of, and it's at a restaurant called the Belmont Tavern. They still have the original phone booth there. The phone was operable up until a couple of years ago, but they still have the original wooden phone booth, and they're not going to get rid of it. So, and there was a phone booth like almost on every corner, you know. So that's what we did, you know. Pull over, I got to make a phone call, you know. If you got stuck with your car back in the day, you were up Schitt's Creek. There was no cell phones. You had to get out wherever you got stuck, and you had to find a phone booth to tell somebody to either come and get you or for a tow truck or whatever. You know, you had to first find that phone booth. So the cell phone does have an advantage to a certain degree, right? And that happened to me too. I got stuck on the Garden State Parkway, and at that time there was no cell phones in the 80s, and I had to walk to find a phone. So yeah, times have changed, and you know, I'm just looking to see what's in the chat here real quick. This is for all the ladies that are in my parlor. That's for all you ladies. That's just a little something I threw at you. So let me just see real quick. Now it's time for Real Talk with Ralph. Now, Real Talk is about anything. Current events, what's going on in the world, what happened down the street. I'll tell you one thing though. I don't know if you're familiar with what happened with Tyree Nichols, the 5 cops that beat this kid to death. I watched a little bit of the video on YouTube, and I had to stop it. It's appalling. It's horrible what these 5 cops did to this kid. And the poor kid was crying out for his mother as they were beating him. And the 5 cops are now charged with second-degree murder and 6 counts against them. But I'll tell you something, they should have been charged with first-degree murder. I thought policemen were supposed to protect and serve. Isn't that what they're supposed to do? Not beat the shit out of the kid. Now, the kid seemed to be a good, clean kid. I mean, I think maybe he got arrested for drugs. Maybe, I'm not sure. Maybe. But even still, the kid didn't do anything. And, was one thing that I want to say is Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton made a remark, and he said that, what did he say? What they did was, he coined it as saying, a disgrace to the race. That's Al Sharpton saying that. Al Sharpton has never said anything like that. And Al Sharpton, I mean, you know Al Sharpton. And for him to say something like that, but it's appalling, it's horrible. I mean, I don't recommend watching it, it's up to you. It is very disturbing. It really is. It's really very disturbing. Yeah, Tammy. My friends told me about the part about him calling for his mother. I did not watch that part. I don't want to see that. I just don't understand what is happening with these cops. Now today, I had a friend of mine sitting next to me he just retired from the force, police officer. And I turned to him and I said to him, I won't mention his name, I said, what do you think about this? He looked at me and goes, it's disgusting. It gives us cops a bad name. He's right. He was absolutely right. And he was on the force in Newark for 30 years. And don't these cops realize something? What the frig is wrong with you? Don't you realize that there's cameras all over the place? Everybody that has a phone has a camera. You're doing this to a kid and people are getting this on video. What is wrong with you? Does it make any sense to you? No. Doesn't make any sense to me. And Floyd. This made Floyd look like the cop that did that to Floyd. I mean, that's nothing. Not that, I mean, he was murdered, but that's nothing compared to what they did to this kid. This kid ended up dying from a beating. He was kicked in the face 6-7 times while screaming for his mother. It's, you know, I'm sorry I brought this up, but it was bothering me. And that's what real talk is. It's about anything. It's about anything. And it was bothering me. Yeah, Gianni, in the moment they don't care, well, they're going to care. They deserve to get the chair or lethal injection, whatever. They deserve to get first-degree murder, never mind second-degree murder. You know, they deserve to get first-degree murder charges, not second-degree. Yeah, most cops have body cams now. And still, you know, still. You know, let me tell you something. In my time, back in the day, we would never, ever, ever think about cursing at a cop, ever. That was unheard of. We respected the law. We may have not liked the cops, especially during the 70s, you know, the hippie era, because some cops didn't like kids with long hair, but we would never disrespect them. We would never, ever curse at a cop. We would get our ass kicked from the cop. There's no two questions about it. So we respected the law, even though we may have not liked the law, but we respected them. And cops back then, they didn't do anything like what they're doing today. You know, you can't have this. You know, here, it's not just one cop, it's 5. It's 5 cops all at the same time. So, and I really feel bad for his mother. I really feel bad for his parents. I don't know if he has a father. I know he has a mother. My heart, seriously, my heart breaks for his mother. To have to, I hope, you know, to watch something like that being done to your son. I think he was 29. None that makes a difference, but still. Yeah. I don't know. Things just are not seeming to get better. They're seeming to get worse. You know. The world has really changed. It really has, you know, and it's very disturbing. So in this Real Talk with Ralph, we could talk about anything. You know, it's very casual, you know. I came in, I talked about a topic and moved to this, moved to that, you know. So it's very casual, but I wanted to bring that up because it was what was bothering me. And, you know, I hope they get what they want. Gerard, are you in the parlor? I just want to tell you about your video. I was watching your video. Really nice scenery. And Tammy, I've been watching your live. And don't forget that tomorrow. Now, I don't know about Todd Father. I don't know if Todd Father's doing the show at 5 o'clock. I went to watch his show on Friday, and I think he took the day off Friday. So I'm not sure if Todd Father's doing the show at 5. He may be doing the show at 5. Of course, Tommy does his show at 6:45, 7, 7:15, you know. I'm not so sure I'm going to be able to do the car lives because my work schedule actually did change. And then you have Dindu at 2:45, and then Vinny, comes on. Vinny doesn't really have a set time. He doesn't have a set time. Oh, I forgot about Dindu. How can you forget about him? Dindu at 2:45, who's locked into that time slot. And then you have Tammy now. Now Tammy's getting in there. I don't know what her time slot's going to be. Pretty soon we're going to need a TV guide of all the content creators and what time they go on. Print out a TV guide and send it out to all our listeners. Oh, Vinny, I didn't even know you were here. I'm sorry, Vinny. How are you? I was so engrossed in talking that I didn't look down. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. I was just talking about you in your show. I'm sure you heard me. Have a great night. Have a great night. Nice guy. Really nice guy. But yeah, it's pretty soon we're going to be needing this a TV guide of all the content creators and their time slots, All right, so now I'm going to do a little music for you. All right, I am going to change right over now to the disco studio. I am now in the disco studio. Okay, let me show you something. Some of you may have gone through the disco era. Some of you may have not. But I got to tell you one thing. It was a great era. It really was. And I don't think there'll be another era as good as that. People that were in the 50s said the 50s were good, the 60s were good. I only know the 70s. And, I made the change from rock into disco, and it was a dramatic change. What I got here, this is the first 12-inch record that ever came out. It came out in 1976. By a group called Double Exposure, and the song was called 10%. This is the first 12-inch that came out, and then after that, many other followed suit. It looks like an album, but it's really not. It's a 12-inch 45 of an extended version of the original song. These were played by the DJs, or, like people like myself that bought them and brought them home and listened to them. But a lot of the DJs played this because they were the extended version of the song, which you can dance to. So this is the very first one that came out in 1976, and that's, how many years is that? I've had that all these years. If I can get it back in the sleeve. There was nothing like vinyl. And I paid, at that time, the price is still on here. I bought it at Music Village in Newark on Broadway in Bloomfield Avenue, and I paid $3 for it in 1976. When I walked into the record shop, that's what it was called, because everything was vinyl back then. I said to the guy, what's that? He goes, that's a 12-inch. I said, what's a 12-inch? He goes, it's the record, but rather than being on a 45, it's the 45, but it's an extended version of the song. And I said, oh. So I bought this. And then I bought many others after this, which I still have. But that's the first 12-inch that came out in 1976. It's not worth very much money, to be honest with you. I looked it up on eBay. It's not worth very much. But like I said, some of you may have gone through that era. I mean, the disco era was great. I mean, when you went from the transition of wear long hair and wait a minute, hold on a second. I do have something here I want to show you. Here's me. That's me in the 70s with long hair. You see, got jeans on and a denim jacket, and right there, I don't know if you can see the curve. I have a Rolling Stone chain on. You can't see it, and the aviator glasses, which were very big at the time. And then when I got into the disco era, I kind of looked like this. Still got the aviator glasses. Now that shirt that I have on, back then in the disco era, there was a lot of prints. That shirt is called a Nick shirt. It's a polyester shirt, and a lot of the guys wore that. We had a long with a long collar, and that photo was taken of me in South Orange, in a restaurant, and my hair is short. It's combed back. And that's when I started to get into the disco era. So, then the guys got dressed up. At that time, they would wear three-piece suits with a vest that matched the jacket and the pants and the platform shoes. And, the platform shoes were like this. And then the heels started to shrink. And the pocket watch, and our hair was combed back. And, it was just a whole different era of going from jeans and denim jackets and ripped jeans with patches on them, and to being dressed up classy. So Gerard, handsome. Who's handsome? Then or now? It was a great era. It really was, and which leads me into this. This was a great song when it came out. And it came out in 1975. I know all of you have heard this song. And what we used to do is, a dance at that time was called the bump. The hustle was not yet invented. So everybody would do the bump to this song. And this group was very popular. And this song will never die. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, what I was saying was that was a great song. That was a great song. And what I was saying was that I wish I had. Can you hear me? Oh, you can hear me now. Okay. I know you can hear me because the mic is up. No, I'm not muted anymore. I'm not muted anymore. What I was saying was that no, I can't be muted now. It can't be. No, I can't be muted now. Hold on, let me check the mic. No, I'm not muted. No, the sound quality is good. I had the mic off for the song. But what I was saying was, when I came back on, is that my priorities back then, I was in my early 20s, and I was living at home. Now, my mother and father didn't charge me any board. Board was, contribute to the household because I was working. They said, just save your money. So my priorities back then were to make sure that I had the latest records, learned the latest dance steps, had nice clothes, and made sure that my car was washed and waxed for the weekend. For when I pulled into the club lot. Those were my priorities. Can you imagine having those priorities today? Clear head. So, but it was a great era. It really was. I mean, dancing, being dressed up and dancing, and then the hustle came out, and everybody was dancing. All the guys were dressed up. Their hairstyle, Gerard, I think you had mentioned that in the parlor, is the hairstyle that was called the DA. When the guys combed their hair back, like I have my hair now, it was called the DA. And all the guys in the club had their hair combed back. And that was the style, And some of the guys got dressed up with ties. Here, let me show you something. You'll get a kick out of this. I think I've made, now I've been called a pimp. But this was the style. This was the style in 1976. Okay, that's me in South Orange in Cameron Field in South Orange, New Jersey in the park. All the guys back then, for a short period of time, wore a brim. And in that picture, I have platform shoes on, but they're low, with their low heel. And you can see I have the same shirt on that was in the other picture. But all the guys back then started to wear brims. But that only lasted for a short period of time. All the guys walked into a club with the hats on. And, I've been told many times I look like a pimp in that picture, but, I didn't think of myself as a pimp back then. But now I can see what they're saying. But that was the style. That was the style. So it was a good era. Hi, Bella. How are you? Larry Dunn, how are you? How are you, Larry? Carol? Just want to make sure I'm saying hello to everybody. Okay, I got maybe one more song. This song that I'm going to play was by the Stylistics. Really nice number with horns, and a lot of the groups back then used synthesizers. Some of them used actual orchestras, but a lot of them used synthesizers. This was a #1 hit for the Stylistics back in 1970. Let me think for a second. 75. This was a big hit. Now, at that time, a lot of the guys like myself were starting to get into black groups. We evolved from rock and went into disco and started to get into the R&B black groups like Kool and the Gang, the Stylistics, Blue Magic, Van McCoy. So we started listening to R&B black groups, and they were really good. They were really good. They put out a lot of good songs to dance to. Barry White was very big. Barry White was, I still love Barry White, Barry White was great. This was by the Stylistics. This was one of their #1 hits back in 1975. Did that song bring back some memories to you? It did to me. You know, music and songs. Some songs will either make you very happy, some songs will make you sad. Some songs will make you remember where you were the first time you heard it, and some songs will make you remember what you were doing at that time in your life. So music has many different ways that it affects you. And that's probably one of the reasons why I've been into music for so many years and even sing now. But, you know, I just want to say real quickly that, because the show is coming to an end, is that when I came out of the disco era into the 70s and into the 80s, I really didn't know what music to listen to. And the 80s put out some really good music. You know, I was listening to groups like Wham, George Michael's, and Madonna was just coming on the scene, and Simple Minds, you know, and Blondie. Well, Blondie was in the 70s, but the 80s put out some good songs. The 80s was a good era. And I was confused. I didn't know what to listen to, so I started to break away from the disco songs and go into that time period and start listening to that music. You know, I don't know if you know this. Do you know what the very first rap song was? The very first rap song that started everything. The very first one. And it wasn't Vanilla Ice, Ice Ice Baby. A lot of people think it was that. It was not that song. Let me see if anybody can get it in the parlor. What was the very first rap song that was made that paved the way for everything? Let me see if anybody can get it. No, it wasn't Devo. Devo. I didn't like Devo. Let me see if anybody gets it. No. Let's see. I don't see anybody saying it. Elvis. No. Yes, Larry Dunn. The Sugar Hill Gang and Rapper's Delight was the very first rap song that paved the way for rap. The very one. The very first song. And still holds up today. If the DJ plays that song today in a club, and I've seen it done, when that song plays, everybody gets up and dances to it. Everybody gets up and dances to it. That people that are my age, you know, or younger. That was the very first one. Run DMC. Oh, that's right. You had in the 80s. No, that was the 90s. The 90s was the 90s Run DMC and Biggie Small and all them guys. You know. Then I was listening to groups like Hootie and the Blowfish. You know, groups like that. And I'm trying to remember some of the groups I was listening to. I don't remember. I can't name them. Blondie's from New Jersey, you know. Do you know that? Blondie's from New Jersey? Blondie's from New Jersey. Yep, Gerard, you're right. The Rapper's Delight. Sugar Hill Gang. And there was a song, some of you might remember this, and I'm trying to remember what era that was put out in. I think it was the 80s. White Line Fever. White Line Fever. It was a song about cocaine. It was White Line Fever. If you want to listen to it, that song was about cocaine. That was a big song back then when it came out. Run DMC started in the late 80s? I'm not sure. Because at that time I wasn't into that kind of music. I'm trying to think the 80s. Who? I know the 90s was like big in rap. You know, the 90s era started to get into rap. I call it rap crap. That's what I call it. Gianni, I agree with you 100%. White Lines, right, Christopher? Do you remember that song? White lines through my veins. I don't even remember the words. Yeah. Anyway, so that's it for this show. Yeah, it was a good period. The 80s was a great time. Great time. I hope you enjoyed going down memory lane with me. But I just want to say one thing before I close out the show. I want to thank you for all joining me tonight in the parlor. I want to thank you all for your support. Leave a comment, hit the like button. I only see 4 likes. Does that tell me you didn't like the show? I only see 4 likes. Or maybe I made a mistake. Yeah, I see 5 likes. That's not good. But leave a comment on the show. I know I always ask you to leave a comment because it helps on the analytics. But I want to thank you all for joining me. Thank you for your support. You're all great listeners. Gianni, again, happy birthday. And if you have any birthdays, let me know. I'll do the same thing for you. So that's going to be kind of like the format. Something on that order, you know. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, you know. Oh, refresh the page? Okay. Well, I'm on the phone, so I can't really see. Oh, it's 25 now? Okay. Well, I had 20, I think I had 28 in the chat. Of course, people have to, I'm sorry about the muting. I forget, because when I do the music, the microphone has to be off. 23. Don't forget tomorrow. All right, I'm not sure about Todd Father. If he does do a show and you're up that early, he's at 5. Tommy Stiggs at 7:15, 7:15. I'm not so sure I'm going to be doing a live card because my schedule changed. If I get time during the week, I will do a show during the week. You got Thindu and Vito the Pitbull at 2:45. You got Tammy coming on now with a show. You got Vinny, who God knows when he's doing his show. And I'm telling you, we're going to need a TV guide. You remember the TV guide? We're going to need a TV guide of all the content creators and their time slots. That's what it's getting to be. So don't forget those shows. I just want to say one thing, you know, that no matter how things are difficult in life, and we all go through periods of time when things get rough, you know, try and stay positive. I hope I've entertained you. I hope you enjoyed the show. And that's it. That's it, really. I mean, stay positive when things are very, very negative and tough, and we've all been through there. You know, at least you come on here, you have a little escape with our shows. You know, it's getting away from kind of like what's going on in the world, and come on YouTube and listen to good shows and good people and good listeners and good socializing, you know, and you really can't beat that. Yeah. But just remember one thing, no matter what, don't ever let the sun go down on you. All right, everybody. God bless you. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon.
I can light no more of your darkness. All my pictures seem to fade to black and white. I'm growing tired, and time stands still before me. Frozen here on the ladder of my life. Too late to save myself from falling. took a chance and changed my way of life. But you misread my meaning when I tell you. Close the door and let me blind by light. Don't let the sun go down on me. Although I search myself, it's always someone else I see. I'm just a fragment of your life to wander free. But losing everything is like the sun going down on me. I can't find all the right romantic lines, but see me once and see the way I feel. Don't discard me just because you think I mean your heart.